Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation Podcast. I'm Tarah Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin.
And as always, just thank you for listening, for tuning in, for all of your positive feedback that we get and our ratings, which have been awesome to see. Also, thank you for giving us so many ideas. We have podcast planned for the next, 3 months, I think.
Yeah, we have enjoyed a string of really amazing guests over the past couple months. And so it's been great. And some of those ideas have come directly from our audience. People have turned us on to people and helped us connect with people. We've definitely got amazing ideas from you. And, we always just appreciate you guys out there just sharing our podcast with people, telling people about it. If there's a certain podcast you listen to you think is going to connect with one of your friends or family members, please just pass it on. It means the world to us.
And I love that. So we get our little podcast statistics and we're charting in different countries. And it feels so good to be internationally, people are listening to this podcast. It makes me feel so happy.
Yeah, it's even fun to see other markets, things like Albuquerque for some reason has become a place where we have a bunch of listeners. And
I thought Kenya was interesting.
Kenya. We chart in Kenya. So this is a really cool podcast today. First of all, we have one of our favorite guests on.
Honey, you can't play favorites.
Yeah, we do. That's Jessie Krall, who is a therapist here at our center, somatic experiencing practitioner. And her and Tarah, they had a really amazing idea, and I won't spoil it. I'll just introduce you guys. And then we put together something that we're super proud of here. It's our second online product. But so I want to first of all say good morning, Jessie.
Good morning. It's so good to be back.
Yeah. How have you been?
I've been really good. I'm excited for today's topic and to tell people about what we're up to because I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Right on. How about, can you, Tarah and I do this all the time. I don't think we've ever done this with a guest before. Can you do a check-in today? Can you tell us,
sure,
give us a check-in and how you are
that.
today? Yeah.
I am feeling grateful and excited and anxious. Grateful and excited because I'm here right now, but also my partner is just shifted careers and in the same field as me and super exciting. And then anxious because I'm really stepping up the stepmom role. And
there you go.
That's going to be another podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole podcast. So that's both anxious and excited about that as well. And then my intention for the day with my relationship is to really support my husband in his transition into his new work and just be an ear for him to listen to and also his cheerleader and whatever he needs. And one positive relationship statement I'll make about my relationship is that we are secure and safe and fierce for each other.
That is really wonderful.
Love that.
That's another example to everybody out there. And just, we definitely encourage everybody to be doing those check-ins with your partner daily. We really, it doesn't, as you saw there, Jessie, it took her 90 seconds or so to do a check-in.
And even checking in with yourself if you don't have a partner.
And that's a perfect segue, Tarah.
Perfect segue.
All right.
Thank you. I didn't even mean to do it, but okay.
So the two of you had an idea. Yeah. Tell us about this idea that the two of you had.
Jessie, you want to start? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So, from my own experience, just watching other people and my own life, for a lot of us, relationships can feel like they just evade us. We just can't get the right relationship, can't create a healthy relationship. We just can feel really frustrated. And what I think we've discovered is that the first relationship has to be with yourself. You have to create a very secure relationship within yourself if you want to create a secure relationship with a partner. So this work is all about how do I get myself as an individual ready to have the most elevated, best relationship of my life. Whether you're already in a relationship and you
Absolutely.
want it to be better, whether you have not even started dating, you're maybe considering it or contemplating it, but you're not dating yet, or you're out in the dating scene and you're frustrated and it's not going that great, or you're out in the dating scene and it's going great. Like what I love, I think Tarah would agree, it's like, it doesn't matter where you're at in your process. This is some great work to do on yourself.
And it's so a lot of the work we do with couples here, it's like individual work for the sake of the couple. So kind of doing this more individualized program just made sense. Number one, because of the pandemic, right? We work with individuals, families, and couples, and we hear a lot of people are like, I don't even know what to do anymore. Like I feel isolated. I feel lonely. I don't even know how to date. And so I kind of had this like idea pop in my mind, like, so the name of the program is Relationship Ready. And it's like, what if we created this program that was kind of like starting to date yourself to really understand if you have been in relationships before, these dysfunctional patterns that keep repeating, and then you think the next relationship's going to be better, and bam, 2 years in, you're like, how is the same thing happening? This person was so different from my other person. So, I mean, there was just a lot of different factors that led us to creating Relationship Ready. But again, it is for growing as an individual to really understand yourself in the best way you can so that you have that secure functioning. Jessie, I'll piggyback on what you said. In order to have the person that's in your life now or coming into your life where it feels really good for you and you feel confident and trusting that red flags and negative dysfunctional patterns are not going to show up. And if they do, you'll be ready. You will know what to do. You will be relationship ready.
All right. So
go ahead and interview us.
Okay.
Steve.
So Relationship Ready is the online course you guys created.
Yes.
Right. And it's created for who? Just sort of nail that down. Who is this course for?
It's really created for anyone who wants to improve the quality of their relationships. First and foremost, their relationship with their self, and then hopefully that will translate to improving relationships, not only with your romantic partner, but with everybody in your life. Mm-hmm. I first kind of, when we were talking about it, thought it was really for people who wanted to get out there and start dating and attract sort of that love of their life. And that's great. It's definitely for you guys. But then I realized, like, if you're in a relationship and say like your partner isn't really interested in doing work on the relationship, hey, that's okay. Like you can still work on yourself, which will also improve the relationship as well. So I thought that was kind of like a cool, liberating thing that you don't have to wait for somebody else to do the freaking work. You can just do it.
And I also think for me, it's no matter if you're in a relationship, if you're not, age, anything right there. It's about building trust in yourself that you can make choices that feel good for you.
I love that. So you guys are saying that the Relationship Ready, this course is for a really broad range of people. It's for people who maybe are single and want to just sort of like create a foundation for themselves where they understand themselves better. They maybe look to their past a little bit and learn about like how they've been in past relationships. But even if you're in a relationship and you want to really just kind of understand yourself and why you're functioning positively, negatively in the relationship, but your partner might not be into that yet, it's for both of these people.
Yep.
How did you do that? Like, how did you sort of create that balance between it being for that single person or that person who's, in a relationship?
It's so funny because it was such a process. Like Jessie said, first it was for kind of like the single person wanting to attract that. And then we were like, oh my gosh, actually this would work for anybody. And so we put like when we're exploring like past relationships, if people haven't dated before, they've never been in a relationship, we say, listen, pick just a primary relationship with a friend, a coworker that you can use even. So we just got pretty technical with the wording that would feel more generalized to not a specific population.
And so what can they expect? Somebody like if somebody's like kind of thinking like, oh, this is kind of interesting, like, but if they did this course, what would they get out of it?
So, just to kind of give you like a logistical vision of what this would look like, this is an online course and it's 10 weeks. Well, you don't have to do it in 10 weeks, but it's designed with 10 lessons, recommended for 10 weeks to keep that momentum and consistency going. And what you'll see on each, you'll get an email, some text, some written lessons, and you'll also get a video of Tarah and I, and we'll explain, a little bit about whatever topic we're talking about. We have a great range of topics. We'll talk about that in a second too. And then you'll want to put time in your calendar to do, it's kind of like a workbook. You'll get the sheets online in your course, but you'll be like filling out all these questionnaires to really dig deep and really rumble with yourself and your history and your life and understand yourself in new ways.
Yeah, one of the first exercises actually before we even start the lessons is like an accountability contract for yourself. So we're like, hey, pick a time and a day every week where you're prioritizing yourself to really work on whatever that lesson is. And we've also created a closed Facebook group for people in the relationship ready journey, I'm going to call it. So they can actually find support there. And Jessie and I are going to be kind of facilitators in that group so we can be there to answer any questions. Maybe people even find love in that group. Who knows? Like the world is our oyster, but that is like our inner hope. Like, oh my gosh, what if people start finding love within this group?
I know. And how nice would it be to meet somebody else who is really committed to doing this self-work, to becoming their best selves, like people being their best selves, meeting people being their best selves.
Together. That's our mantra.
Well, and I love like the online course sort of format, because the three of us, I think we all really have probably read 100 plus each self-help books and books about, different aspects of therapy and psychology and all that, which is really wonderful to sit with a book. But there's something cool about an online course that has that sort of multimedia, the way it hits you, that we'll see the two of you talking and sharing something. And then there's something to read. And then there's a lesson or an exercise for them to go through. And it sort of hits you because we all learn differently, right? And it's nice. And then this community too, on Facebook, where you can actually get in and interact with people. Because how often are you reading a book and you're like, God, especially when you're single, honestly.
I'd love to pick this
when you're like, I'd love to talk to somebody about this.
Yeah, we're excited about that part.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say too, like the way Jessie and I designed it, we really had in mind like strategy of like where to start and where to end. So it feels like this very fluid process because it starts with like, again, we can get into more detail, but it starts with like really exploring your attachment style from early on. And Jessie's like our attachment specialist, right? So we got down and deep in there.
It was fun.
Right. To understand why attachment is so important and why secure attachment is one of the most important concepts and styles to have for a healthy, healthy relationship.
Yeah, as you're talking and you're picturing that sort of that flow and that unfolding, it's like building a foundation. It's like brick by brick, we're just building this awesome foundation. And you can't jump to like the last lesson is really about envisioning the relationship that you are creating. And you can't just jump to that without first getting under the surface and understanding where you've been. It's like where you've been, where you are, where you're going.
Exactly.
And like learning a lot of too of like, how am I going to interact once I'm in this relationship? Or if I'm in this relationship, how can I be the best person?
And what a valuable piece of insight to build, one, either before you're in a relationship or maybe even in your relationship before issues have become sort of chronic, right? Is like, because one of the big things in attachment theory that we talk about is differentiation, is getting away from the sort of like systems that were created for you in your childhood or in early relationships. And I know like personally, like it took until, it was like shoved in my face and
gosh.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to like finally, and even then it was hard to get at. And so to have a context really early in life or early in relationship or before you're in the relationship, because I think one of the things you guys do is you don't just look at the relationship you're in or past relationship you've had, but just relationships, right?
Yeah.
Is from your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, your friends.
Absolutely.
What do you want a person to get out of that portion of the course?
For me, we might have different answers. I'm not sure. But to me, I look at it as like, okay, when we're born into this world, we have like this authentic core of who we are. And then we're born into a family. Everyone's family is super different, but we know as kids, we absorb a lot of people's dysfunctional feelings, traits, whatever it is. And so we get all this stuff, baggage piled upon us, and we get farther and farther from who we are at our genuine, authentic self. And so the way we kind of designed it is to like really understand who the core of you is. So that way, when you are in a relationship or looking for a relationship, you have a really healthy sense of self going in, and you're able to identify, ooh, that's mine. And that actually is not mine. I mean, we go through boundaries, codependency, exploring every past relationship and the red flags that happen there. We could go on and on.
I love that idea you just said of like, what's mine and what's not mine. And I think that this first portion of this course is this big like zoom out. Like,
Totally.
Let's just look at our overall background. Let's understand it. Let's get the patterns. Let's get the messages. And let's kind of start to decipher, be almost like this investigator where we're going, is that even healthy? Is that how I want to be? And I think the more we start to question these early experiences, the more as we're going through our adult life, we can be in a moment and go, oh my gosh, like that's not even mine. Like that's how my mom was. Like I'm being my freaking mother. And I've caught myself, like, I'm just going to share an example because I like examples. So my husband and I were like rearranging the house, and I felt myself getting really anxious and really bossy. And I don't like to think of myself as bossy, but in my bad moments, I'm very bossy. And so I'm like telling him what to do. And I'm like just being annoying, really. And like I could feel like his defenses were coming up and he was uncomfortable. And because I've done a lot of this work that we do in this course, I was able to very quickly pause and be like, oh my gosh, this is how my mom used to get it. It was like everything had to be perfect, everything in its place, and it has to be done right now. And I was able to go, I don't want to be that way. Like that's not, I don't even believe that. And then I went to my husband and I said, hey, can we circle back? I don't like how I showed up. I was really coming from this place. And so,
that's huge.
So my hope would be that the takeaway for you guys when you do this course is that you can bring more awareness to your stuff that's maybe not really your stuff, but that you get entrenched in, and then have accountability and be healthier.
Yeah. I think what a course like this does is it gives you sort of like a strategy towards looking inward. It creates like a paradigm that instead of just looking at my partner or the people I've been in relationship with, like just looking at them as the problem or them as like the catalyst for negative experiences, it just creates this like, let me reflect on myself a little bit first. Because I know like for years, I don't know, like from relationship to relationship, how much I really, unless it was like an abject thing that I did like just wrong, like I made a bad choice that it was like obviously a bad thing that ended the relationship. The subtle aspects of my personality, I didn't even look at in the context of a relationship. I always looked at it as just like, well, this other person is just like, this didn't work, or, and I think this course will help people like create like this like really compassionate inward look of like, why am I reacting in this way?
Oh my gosh, I got the goosebumps.
Jessie gets goosebumps. It's a thing, you guys.
But for real, I mean, that's one of the things when we do have you look at your past relationships, we want you to be empowered to take radical responsibility for what didn't go well. What was your part? Right. And that, for me, is where the magic really lies in understanding your part in the dysfunction.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, if I would have, I'm glad I didn't have this course 10 or 15 years ago, because I probably wouldn't have married you or met you, because I would, no, not in a bad way.
Hey now, what's going on over there?
No, not in a bad way, but I had like significant abandonment issues, which actually is going to be another podcast because it's so huge. I mean, I would like move from guy I was like a serial monogamous, thinking like, oh, well, like if I found this guy, the grass must be better. And they started to show me less attention. So obviously there's something wrong with that person. I never looked at myself. I just thought it was the other person constantly. And then right when it really hit me in the face was like, I'll never forget, and I'll talk about it again when we do our abandonment podcast. But one night, my ex-boyfriend, who I'd been with for like 3 or 4 years, he was like 2 hours late for a date, which was just him. He had like ADD stuff. And I was physically shaking, like my entire body was physically shaking. And I'm like, what is going on? And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And then I start to do a lot of Googling research, and I was like, oh, abandonment stuff. I just thought like I was a really resilient girl where 2 dads had left me, like I'm good. And no, right? And then I was able to do so much work on myself around abandonment and recognize like, wow, I can't expect someone else to make me feel special and loved. I have to do that for myself. And if I don't, I will be a serial monogamist forever.
As you're talking, it did occur to me, I want to say this to our listeners and those of you who decide to join us on this journey, is that you might dig in and find something really hard. Like maybe the abandonment stuff is like really strong, and maybe you need to get a professional to work with, a counselor, somebody to process this stuff with. And it might be really cool to be able to bring in some of the exercises and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can you help me?
This is what's
go through it.
Yeah, this is what's coming up for me.
Yeah.
All right. So going to take a pretty deep dive into their past. What are a few, just give them a little more of a hint of like, what are the other things that are a part of this?
There's so much. I know.
Can I talk about my favorite part?
Okay. Yes. You start and then I'll piggyback on you.
So one of my favorite parts is we bring in some of the somatic piece, and we start to help people look at how do you trust your body, the signals in your body, your intuition. How can you feel into that to make really informed decisions with dating or in a relationship? Like, for example, say I'm out on a first date and for whatever reason, I start to feel like knots in my stomach or my chest starts to feel tight. To me, that's like, ooh, red flag.
Listening to that.
And I might not know what exactly the red flag is, but my body knows. And I need to trust that.
I mean, there's so much, but I mean, I will just give a few. So we explore attachment. We explore triggers and negative core beliefs that lead us into, again, not being our best selves, putting up defenses, not letting us be vulnerable. We go into self-esteem, desirability, confidence, boundaries, codependence.
See, so much.
The baggage we carry. We go into, like you were just saying, the intuitive piece, knowing to trust your body, that gut instinct, if you will. And then again, it's kind of like the final piece of it is like that surrender, that vulnerability, and then that visualizing, like we're trying to keep this fun. It's like this curiosity project about you. How often do we get to be curious about ourselves with ourselves? It's rare. And so, it starts from like, that core of who we truly are, understanding that, shredding through some layers in order to have this understanding in ourself and the ability to have a healthy relationship with those that we get to choose to, and we don't get stuck in these dysfunctional unconscious dynamics, which again, keep us here very busy at our couples counseling center. But our job is to get out there and do way more prevention work. So this is like a product of that, our wanting to be preventative around having to come into couples counseling.
Yeah. All right. So somebody, somebody decides, they're like, hey, this sounds cool. They go through the program. What do they expect? 10 weeks later, they walk out of doing all this work. What do you think people can expect?
I picture that they're going to feel a lot more confident. They're going to feel more comfortable in their own skin, more just like knowing of who they are. They're going to feel more ready to be in relationship. They're going to feel like they have some really good communication skills and boundaries, and that they understand their own triggers. I think it's going to be pretty freaking amazing.
Awesome. A sense of freedom. I'm thinking right now, like last night we had this couple, they're almost finished with our program here. And we explored like this negative core belief that happened for them last week. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And we're like, yeah. So then this week they came in and they're like, okay, well, we had this challenge, but holy moly, did we get through it, because he was able to recognize it was his negative core belief of I'm out of control that was happening. And he, they did their code word. He took his time. He processed it. He came back. He's like, it's really the first time for him, and they've been married for over 30 years, right?
Oh my gosh.
His first time where he feels like he is now in control of how
he understands why he's reacting in a certain way and then can make a choice.
And that, to me, that's freedom. That is freedom, because now we don't get hijacked by these things that are unconscious that we don't know. Well, sometimes we do, but for the most part, we have the ability to choose where we want to go, and we understand what's happening. And to me, bam.
Yeah. I mean, imagine having that type of information about yourself going into a relationship.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That would be
so good.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that people are going to gain is this online community that you're creating.
Yes.
The relationship ready closed group. It'll be a place where you can go into, you can talk to other people in the program. You can interact. You guys are going to do some lives and stuff like monthly. And so it's going to be just a cool resource for continuing people's self-growth.
Yeah. Yeah. We're really proud, and I feel truly grateful that I was able to work with Jessie on this, because it was both like our heart core that came from this. So
goosebumps again. Agreed.
Yeah, it was fun to work with you guys too. I got to kind of step back and just kind of watch you guys. I got to be the director, and that was really fun. And I think the product turned out really amazing. It's, we've learned a lot about making these products now. I think it's definitely a step up. So you guys did an amazing job. And you guys out there, definitely check it out. I'll put a link in our show notes to the page for it. You can always check our stuff out on our website, relationshiprenovation.com, and all of our social media as well under Relationship Renovation. But the product is relationship ready. Jessie Krall, Tarah Kerwin did an amazing job of putting this together. I know you guys are going to get a ton out of it.
Absolutely. And then hopefully, like after people go through this, we can have someone on our podcast kind of talking about their experience with it. So that we're excited for that too.
Yeah. So. After you've done this, please send us an email, info@relationshiprenovation.com. Tell us about your experience. And if you do want to be on our show and talk about going through it and talk about what you learned in the attachment portion, and it'd be awesome to hear people's experiences.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having us. Well, I guess I'm here every Friday, but I felt like I was a guest today. It was really nice.
Thank you, Jessie. It's always a pleasure.
You.
And please, follow us on Instagram. We are at relationship_renovation. You can like us on Facebook at He Said, She Said Counseling, or you can search for Relationship Renovation on Facebook. And don't forget to also check us out on TikTok. We are Relationship Renovation.
And as always, take care of yourself and take care of each other.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Me and you just singing on the train. Me and you listening to the rain. Me and you, we are the same. Me and you have all the fame we need. Indeed, you and me are we.